everybody, and welcome to the WRESTLEDUDE YouTube channel for another sort of, I guess, what would I call these? Rant videos. It's a topic here that I want to talk to you guys about just because it's something that I was thinking about the other day, and I thought about it more and more, and I was like, huh, you know, that's actually kind of true, which is the topic for today's video, why I believe modern day Impact Wrestling is akin to that of, what would I call it, the golden era of the gold brand of NXT back in 2018, I would say, 2018, maybe even 2017 if we're going that far. But yes, this is also sort of a way just to kind of say how much I've been enjoying Impact Wrestling lately and how I feel like the internet wrestling community should probably stop seeing it as like a lesser brand or something like that. Like the way that I see people continue talking about Impact Wrestling, like just kind of write it off as like a dead company, is just so weird because that is so much further than the truth, or further from the truth than it is. I think Impact Wrestling has been doing awesome lately, and we're gonna get right into it here, sort of with describing how I kind of came back to watching Impact Wrestling. Um, and it was after I started like really like pushing WWE television out of my sort of viewing experience. I stopped watching WWE around like 2017, but I was still sort of keeping up with it. I would maybe watch a pay-per-view or two, and maybe like look up some of the news and stuff that was happening, but I wouldn't really watch the shows. And that started becoming less and less, and I started paying more and more attention to Impact Wrestling. And then it was in late 2019 where I made it a point to make sure that I watch Impact Wrestling every week, and that's what I would do, was watch Impact Wrestling. And I feel like um, the pandemic, yes, definitely hurt them quite a bit, especially considering they didn't really have big crowds to begin with back then, and then to have it go from the small amount of crowd to absolutely no crowd, it was definitely a weird change, but I feel like they kind of adapted to it really, really well, especially with some of the stuff they did, like Wrestle House. Wrestle House was so inventive and very fun and had a very cool storyline without, which I feel like is something that Impact Wrestling has done very, very well, especially within the past two and a half years, is storylines. They are so fucking good at like setting up storylines, sometimes even teasing them like months in advance, and having sort of like a set time to like when storylines will advance, how they're going to end. Most of the time they end up happening and ending in very satisfying ways, and I feel like that's sort of something that NXT kind of tampered off with, especially within the last 2 years, and especially ever since like the beginning of the pandemic, um, has been storylines have kind of just fallen to the wayside. Some stuff has just kind of like abruptly ended or abruptly started or changed. But yeah, Impact Wrestling has easily been able to put on some very entertaining storylines with very satisfying conclusions and sometimes even continuations. Another thing that I would say makes Impact Wrestling as good as the modern, or not modern, the best era of NXT, I would say, is its cast. It has a very nice cast of characters, or roster, I should say. And the thing about NXT, especially back in 2018 and even before that, was NXT's best thing was that it never felt stale for the longest time, because the roster was always evolving. It was never like the same people all the time, which to a point within the last 2 years that was kind of a thing, like especially with Undisputed Era and Johnny Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa. It was, they had sort of something that a lot of people called senioritis. They've just been around for so long, which is something that we had never seen in NXT before, just because like after a while everybody sort of moves on, everyone goes to main roster. Guys like Sami Zayn, guys like Nakamura, guys like Drew McIntyre, Andrade, Aleister Black, Ricochet. Eventually they all went to Raw or SmackDown. Um, what Impact Wrestling has right now is they do still have some people that have been around for a while, but they do still also constantly have new people coming in and some new people, or not new people, and some people that end up leaving the company, maybe even for a little while, maybe going on to other companies, and sometimes maybe they make their way back to Impact Wrestling. But I feel like the way that they usually like write out their characters are also very good. One example that I would bring up is Taya Valkyrie back when she was leaving to go to NXT to become Frankie Monet. I think they did a really good job in writing her out so that way, you know, they could have her exit the company in a good way, but not do it in a way where it's not out of the realm of possibility that maybe she could make a return, especially since, unfortunately, she got released from WWE. But it does leave the door open, perhaps, for a return to Impact Wrestling, the same way akin to Chelsea Green, or back when she was in Impact before, it was Laurel Van Ness. But we could see her come back to Impact Wrestling. I wouldn't mind seeing Taya Valkyrie come back. I would be interested to see how they did it, considering the way that they had her written off Impact Wrestling TV was she got arrested, so who knows? Maybe she might get released on bail or something like that. But yeah, I think Impact's roster and rotating roster, I think, has been very, very good for the company. Um, Another thing that I feel like has been really good for Impact that sort of puts it in the era of Golden Age NXT for me is the big moments. You know, they've had a lot of really great moments, especially with sort of like outside superstars and the way they've built up a lot of their roster. I think of Deonna Purrazzo becoming an incredible star. I remember back in NXT, she was like either barely used or she was always losing, and once she went to Impact Wrestling, she became one of the biggest fucking stars, holding the Knockouts Championship. I think she's the longest reigning Knockouts champion now. I'm pretty sure. Don't hold me to that, but I'm pretty sure she's the longest reigning one. But yeah, then we can't forget about Kenny Omega coming to Impact Wrestling, starting a shake-up in the wrestling world, winning the Impact World Championship, a very insane moment. And then you had Gallows and Anderson coming in and becoming the tag team champions. A lot of big stars coming to Impact. We have the Inspiration, as I have right here. We got Jonah coming in. W. Morrissey making a big return to wrestling, which I was hesitant at first trying to support W. Morrissey or Big Cass just because of kind of his past. But ever since he's come to Impact Wrestling, he's proven that he's become a better person, and he's just done some incredible work. And then even more recently, we've had the inclusion of the Bullet Club, which is a huge get for Impact Wrestling just because of how popular the Bullet Club is. I know sort of their popularity kind of tinkered off a bit after the Elite left, but I still think they're doing awesome work, especially recently with Jay White coming in and turning his back on the Guerrillas of Destiny. I feel like that's, again, another big storyline that is taking place in Impact Wrestling. And I'm just looking at this all, and I'm like, how are people writing this stuff off online and saying that Impact is a dead company? It's a company that has the Bullet Club and all these other awesome fucking stories going. It's a company that had Kenny Omega come in, all these awesome pay-per-view matches, and ideally, or not ideally, one of my top matches of the year last year was Josh Alexander versus Christian Cage for the Impact World title. I love that fucking match, and the outcome of that match sets up a huge storyline that is now going to be coming into play very, very soon. Josh Alexander losing the championship to Moose, Moose becoming world champion, and now all these months later, we're getting the match between Moose and Josh Alexander for the championship, and Josh Alexander might actually win the title here. Again, a storyline that was set up months ago, and now we're finally getting this very nice conclusion to it, and hopefully Josh Alexander wins, because that'd be pretty fucking awesome for him too. But yeah, that's sort of something that I would see happening in that golden age of NXT, is like this storyline starting like a few months ago with this big title loss, and now we're finally work our way back to it with Josh Alexander versus Moose for the World Championship. I think that is just something that Impact has done very, very well, is their storylines, their roster, and their big moments have really come forward and really put them as my number 3 brand that I watch. It's AEW, NXT, and Impact Wrestling. Actually, honestly, Honestly, let me redo that. It's AEW, Impact Wrestling, and NXT 2.0. I really did like NXT, but ever since the 2.0 thing has started, I've found it a lot less necessary to watch compared to the other two. I'll put it like this. With AEW and Impact Wrestling, I watch the entire show every week. With NXT 2.0, sometimes I watch the entire show, and sometimes I just look up the highlight videos on YouTube. That's kind of the point where I'm at with NXT 2.0. But I don't have to worry about NXT 2.0 not being good because I have basically a new version of NXT Black and Gold from 2018 in the form of Impact Wrestling. And that's the way I view Impact Wrestling is NXT 2018 type of era, the golden era of the gold black and gold brand of NXT. That's how I would put it. But let me know in the comment section below. What do you guys think of Impact Wrestling? Where does it rank in terms of brands of pro wrestling that you watch? Let me know in the comment section below. Let me know some of your favorite roster members of Impact Wrestling. I've been really enjoying a lot of Matt Cardona's work, obviously inside Impact Wrestling and outside. Love the inspiration. Johnny Swinger is definitely a favorite of mine. That's why I even made this completely, oh, there goes Jessica McKay, this completely custom Johnny Swinger figure. I think it looks pretty cool. But yeah, I've been loving everything that Impact Wrestling has been doing lately. I think they've been on a big roll as of late, and I really hope it continues into the future. But let me know all that in the comment section below, and I will see you guys later.